The dust never settled on Kepler-7. The red dirt swirled in endless clouds across the barren landscape, kicked up by the constant rumble of human military vehicles. General Marcus Steele stood on the observation deck of his command center, watching his soldiers prepare for another mission. His reflection stared back from the reinforced glass, scarred face, cold gray eyes, and the kind of expression that made grown men step back. They called him the Iron Wolf. Across 3 sectors of space, that name meant death. Imperial fleets changed course when they heard he was coming. Entire worlds surrendered rather than face what he might do to them. Marcus had earned every bit of that fear through years of brutal warfare against the Galactic Empire. The door behind him hissed open. Captain Rodriguez walked in, her boots clicking against the metal floor. She was one of the few people who could approach him without asking permission first. "Sir, we have a problem at the main gate," she said, her voice careful. "A civilian. Won't leave." Marcus turned away from the window. "Shoot them." Rodriguez didn't move. "It's a child, sir. Alien. Very small." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Children complicated things. Dead children brought questions from Earth Command, and he had enough problems already. "What species?" "Zilani, I think. The peaceful ones. She keeps asking for you specifically." The Zilani were harmless. Everyone knew that. They lived on garden worlds far from the war zones, growing food and making art. They had never hurt anyone in recorded history. Marcus couldn't think of any reason why a Zilani child would know his name, let alone come looking for him. "Bring her up," he said finally. Rodriguez nodded and spoke into her comm unit. Marcus walked back to his desk and sat down, pulling up intelligence reports on his computer. If this was some kind of trap, he wanted to be ready. 5 minutes later, the door opened again. Rodriguez came in first, followed by the strangest sight Marcus had seen in years. The Zilani child barely reached Rodriguez's knee. Her skin had a soft blue shimmer, and her large eyes were the color of deep water. She wore a simple white dress that was torn and dirty, and she carried something small in her hands. The child looked around the room with wide eyes, taking in the weapons mounted on the walls and the battle flags hanging from the ceiling. When she saw Marcus, she froze. He could see her small body shaking. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Marcus studied the child, looking for signs of danger or deception. But all he saw was a scared little girl who looked like she hadn't eaten in days. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice flat. The child stepped forward. Her legs wobbled, but she kept walking until she reached his desk. She placed the object she was carrying on the metal surface. It was a small hologram projector, old and battered. "Please," she said in broken galactic common. "Please help Mama." She touched the projector with one tiny finger. The device hummed to life, creating a 3-dimensional image in the air above the desk. Marcus leaned forward to get a better look. The hologram showed a Zilani woman, older than the child but with the same shimmering blue skin. She was being dragged away by Imperial soldiers in their black armor. The woman was reaching toward the camera, her mouth open in a scream that the old projector couldn't reproduce. The soldiers weren't being gentle. "Mama," the child whispered, pointing at the image. Tears ran down her face, leaving wet tracks through the dust on her cheeks. "Bad men take Mama. Please bring Mama home." Marcus stared at the hologram. The Imperial soldiers were wearing the uniforms of the 15th Occupation Brigade. He knew that unit. They specialized in labor extraction from peaceful worlds. The bastards took anyone they could grab and shipped them off to work camps. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lyra," the child said. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "Mama is Arya. She makes beautiful songs. She never hurt nobody." Marcus believed that. The Zilani were incapable of violence. It was built into their biology somehow. They couldn't even kill insects that ate their crops. That made them perfect victims for the Empire's slave raids. "Where did this happen?" Marcus asked, gesturing at the hologram. "Homeworld, Zalara Prime. Bad men came in big ships. Take many people. Take Mama." Lyra's voice got smaller with each word. "I hide. I'm very scared." Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Zalara Prime was supposed to be under neutral protection. The Empire had signed treaties promising to leave the Zilani alone. But treaties didn't mean much when there was profit to be made from slave labor. "How did you get here?" he asked. "Nice trader man. He say you fight bad men. He say you very strong. He bring me here." Lyra looked up at him with those huge eyes. "Please, sir. Please save Mama." Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably beside the door. Marcus could see what she was thinking. This wasn't their problem. The Zilani weren't human allies. They had never asked for protection. Getting involved would mean resources, time, and possibly starting a diplomatic incident with the Empire. But Marcus was looking at the child's face. She was so young, maybe 6 or 7 years old in human terms. She had traveled across half the galaxy to find him, probably not understanding how dangerous he was or what she was asking for. All she knew was that bad men had taken her mother, and someone had told her that General Marcus Steele fought bad men. "Sir," Rodriguez said quietly, "we have orders from Earth Command. The Proxima operation is scheduled for next week." Marcus nodded without looking away from Lyra. The Proxima raid was important. Intelligence had located a major Imperial supply depot there. Destroying it would hurt their operations in this entire sector. But he kept thinking about the hologram. The way the Imperial soldiers had grabbed the Zilani woman. The way she had reached toward the camera, probably toward her daughter. He had seen enough Imperial slave camps to know what happened to people who got sent there. "Most never came out, sir?" Rodriguez asked again. Marcus made his decision. He reached across the desk and gently turned off the hologram projector. Lyra watched him with desperate hope in her eyes. "Captain Rodriguez," he said, "get me everything we have on Imperial operations in the Zalara system. I want troop movements, ship positions, and facility locations. Full intelligence workup." "Sir, what about Proxima?" "Proxima can wait." Marcus looked down at Lyra. The child was still crying, but now there was something else in her expression. Something that might have been the beginning of hope. He had built his reputation on being ruthless, on never showing mercy to his enemies or weakness to anyone else. The Iron Wolf didn't rescue lost children or their mothers. The Iron Wolf killed Imperial soldiers and broke their war machine into pieces. But as he looked at Lyra standing there in her torn dress, holding her broken hologram projector, Marcus realized that maybe it was time for the Iron Wolf to do something different. "We're going to get your mama back," he told her. Lyra's face lit up with the first smile he had seen from her. It was a beautiful smile full of innocence and trust, the kind of smile that reminded him why he had started fighting the Empire in the first place. He just hoped he could keep the promise he had just made. Marcus stood in the briefing room 3 days later, looking at the holographic display that filled most of the space. The three-dimensional map showed Kepler Station, a massive Imperial facility floating in the dead space between star systems. Intelligence reports covered every surface of the room, and his best officers sat around the table with grim expressions. "The station processes roughly 10,000 slaves per month," Lieutenant Chen was saying, pointing at different sections of the hologram. "They sort them by species and physical capability, then ship them out to work camps across the sector." Marcus nodded, studying the station's defensive systems. Kepler Station was built like a fortress, energy shields, missile platforms, and a full squadron of Imperial fighters. Getting in would be hard. Getting out would be harder. "What about the Zilani specifically?" he asked. Chen pulled up another display. "This is where it gets interesting, sir. The Zilani aren't being sent to work camps. They're being kept in a separate facility, high-security medical bay. We're not sure why." Captain Rodriguez leaned forward. "Medical experiments? Possibly. We've intercepted some coded transmissions, but we can't break the encryption yet." Chen switched to a new image showing the station's interior layout. "The medical bay is here in the most protected part of the station. Getting there means going through the main processing center." Marcus felt his hands clench into fists. Medical experiments on the Zilani made no sense. They were peaceful, harmless creatures. What could the Empire possibly want to learn from them? "How many Zilani are we talking about?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. But based on the size of the medical facility and the number of raid reports from Zilara Prime, we estimate several thousand." Several thousand. Marcus had been thinking about rescuing one woman. Now he was looking at a much bigger problem. If the Empire was conducting experiments on thousands of Zilani, this wasn't just a slave operation. This was something much worse. "Sir," Major Thompson spoke up from the far end of the table. "With respect, this mission is getting complicated. We have a squad of 12 men. Kepler Station has a garrison of 500 Imperial troops." Marcus looked around the table. His officers were good soldiers, and they were right to be concerned. This was supposed to be a simple extraction mission. Get in, grab one person, get out. Now they were talking about assaulting a major Imperial installation, but he kept thinking about Lyra, sleeping in the quarters he had given her. The child trusted him completely. She had told everyone who would listen that the nice general was going to bring her mama home. How could he explain to her that it was too dangerous, that her mother wasn't worth the risk? "We do reconnaissance first," he said finally. "Ghost Battalion will infiltrate the station. We assess the situation, locate the target, and then decide on extraction methods." Ghost Battalion was his elite unit, 12 of the most dangerous soldiers in human space. They had never failed a mission, but they had never tried anything this ambitious either. "When do we leave?" Rodriguez asked. "Tonight. I want to be in position by tomorrow evening." Marcus stood up and the others followed. "Dismissed. Rodriguez, stay behind." The other officers filed out, leaving Marcus alone with his second-in-command. Rodriguez waited until the door sealed before speaking. "Sir, I have to ask, is this really about the child?" Marcus walked to the window. Outside, he could see human soldiers training in the dusty courtyard. They moved with the precision of a machine built for killing. These men followed him because they believed in him, trusted him to make the right decisions. Was he about to get them killed for the sake of one Zalani woman and her daughter? "The Empire signed treaties promising to leave the Zalani alone," he said. "If they're breaking those treaties, it sets a precedent. Today it's the Zalani. Tomorrow it could be any peaceful species." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "And if they're conducting medical experiments? Then we stop them." Marcus turned back to face her. "Permanently." That night, the Ghost Battalion prepared for insertion. Marcus watched his soldiers check their equipment one final time. Each man carried enough firepower to level a city block, but they would be going into Kepler Station quietly. If everything went according to plan, nobody would know they were there until it was too late. The insertion went smoothly. Their ship, painted black to blend with the void, approached Kepler Station from the dark side. Marcus and his team used personal thrusters to cross the last kilometer, landing on the station's outer hull like insects on a giant metal beast. Getting inside took 2 hours of careful work. They cut through the outer plating, bypassed security systems, and finally emerged into a maintenance tunnel deep in the station's interior. Everything was going according to plan, until they found the first body. It was a Zalani male lying in a corridor that should have been empty. Marcus knelt beside the body, checking for vital signs. The alien was alive, but barely. His blue skin had turned pale, and strange marks covered his arms and neck. "Sir?" Sergeant Park whispered from up ahead. "You need to see this." Marcus left 2 men with the injured Zalani and moved forward. What he saw when he reached Park's position made his blood run cold. They were looking through a transparent barrier into the medical bay. Hundreds of Zalani were suspended in clear tubes filled with glowing liquid. Machines connected to each tube monitored vital signs and extracted some kind of fluid from the aliens' bodies. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the Imperial officers standing at control consoles, their eyes glowing with unnatural light, the same blue glow that came from Zalani eyes. "Jesus Christ," somebody whispered behind him. Marcus understood now. The Empire wasn't just enslaving the Zalani. They were harvesting them for their natural psychic abilities, somehow transferring those abilities to Imperial commanders. The medical bay wasn't a prison. It was a factory for creating psychic super soldiers. "Sir?" Park said, pointing to one of the tubes near the center of the facility. "Is that her?" Marcus looked where Park was pointing. In one of the tubes, barely visible through the glowing liquid, was a Zalani woman who matched the hologram Lyra had shown him. Arya was alive, but the machines attached to her were slowly draining away everything that made her who she was. "That's the target," Marcus confirmed. "But we're not just taking her, sir." Marcus looked at the hundreds of tubes, each containing a living, breathing person who had been turned into a biological resource. The Empire had crossed a line here, moved beyond simple conquest into something that violated every principle of civilized warfare. "We're taking all of them," he said, "and then we're burning this place to the ground." The mission had just become much more complicated. But as Marcus looked at Arya floating in her tube, he thought about Lyra waiting for her mama to come home. Some things were worth any amount of complication. The medical bay aboard Marcus's flagship was quiet, except for the steady beeping of monitoring equipment. Arya lay on the examination table, her blue skin pale but alive. The Zalani woman had been unconscious for 2 days since the rescue, her body fighting off whatever the Imperial machines had done to her. Marcus sat in a chair beside the bed, reading intelligence reports on his tablet. They had managed to extract 43 Zilani from Kepler Station before the Imperial reinforcements arrived. 43 out of hundreds. The rest were gone, destroyed when his team set off the charges that turned the medical bay into twisted metal and fire. Dr. Sarah Kim entered the room, carrying a medical scanner and wearing the tired expression of someone who had been working without sleep. She was the best xenobiology expert in the human fleet, but even she looked frustrated. "Any change?" Marcus asked without looking up from his tablet. "Her vital signs are stable, but there's something strange going on with her neural patterns," Dr. Kim said, running the scanner over Arya's head. "The Imperial procedure seems to have enhanced her natural psychic abilities instead of draining them." "I've never seen anything like it." Marcus finally looked up. "Enhanced how?" "She's broadcasting emotions. Strong ones. My entire medical staff feels sad whenever they're in this room, even though they don't know why." Dr. Kim set down the scanner and rubbed her eyes. "General, I think she's dreaming about her daughter." Before Marcus could respond, Arya's eyes opened. The large, water-blue eyes that all Zilani shared, but somehow deeper now. She looked around the room with confusion, then fear when she saw the human uniforms. "It's all right," Marcus said, keeping his voice gentle. "You're safe. We rescued you from the Imperial station." Arya tried to sit up, but Dr. Kim gently pushed her back down. The Zilani woman looked between the two humans, her eyes wide with terror. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Lyra. Where is Lyra?" "Your daughter is safe," Marcus said. "She's the one who asked us to find you." Arya's expression changed from fear to desperate hope. "She is alive. She is here?" Marcus nodded. "Would you like to see her?" For the first time since waking up, Arya smiled. It was a weak smile, but genuine. Marcus spoke into his comm unit, and a few minutes later the medical bay doors opened. Lyra ran into the room faster than Marcus had ever seen a Zilani move. She climbed onto the examination table and threw her arms around her mother, speaking rapidly in their native language. Both of them were crying, but these were happy tears. Marcus felt something strange in his chest as he watched the reunion. He had seen many emotional moments during the war, but this was different. This was what he had been fighting for, even if he hadn't realized it until now. After a few minutes, Arya looked up at him while still holding her daughter close. "You are the general Lyra told me about. The Iron Wolf. That's what they call me," Marcus said. "Thank you for bringing my baby back to me," Arya said. "I thought I would never see her again." Marcus was about to respond when Arya's expression suddenly changed. Her eyes went wide and she grabbed his arm with surprising strength. When she spoke, her voice carried a strange, harmonic quality that seemed to resonate in his bones. "General, you must listen to me. What the Empire did to us, it was not for labor. It was not for experiments. They are making weapons out of my people." Dr. Kim leaned forward, her medical scanner beeping rapidly. Her neural activity just spiked off the charts. Arya ignored the doctor. Her grip on Marcus's arm tightened. They found a way to transfer our abilities to their commanders. But something went wrong with the process. The Imperial officers who received our gifts, they are changing, becoming something else. What do you mean?" Marcus asked. "I saw them during the process. Their minds connected to mine. They were not evil men when they started, just soldiers following orders. But our psychic abilities, when forced into minds not meant to hold them, they create hunger, terrible hunger for more power, more sensation, more of everything." Lyra said something in Zilani, sounding frightened. Arya stroked her daughter's hair and continued speaking to Marcus. "The Empire thinks they have created better commanders. They do not understand that they have created monsters. These officers will never be satisfied with normal conquest. They will want to consume everything, everyone." Marcus felt cold understanding wash over him. "How many officers have they enhanced?" "I do not know exactly, but I felt their minds during the connection. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They are spreading throughout the Imperial fleet, taking command positions, making decisions that normal Imperial commanders would never make." Dr. Kim looked at her scanner readings with concern. "General, I'm getting reports from across the fleet. Every human within 50 meters of this room is experiencing intense emotional reactions. Fear, anger, determination. Her psychic abilities are affecting everyone nearby." Marcus looked at Arya, really seeing her for the first time. This wasn't just a mother he had rescued. She was a weapon, enhanced by Imperial science and potentially more dangerous than any technology in his arsenal. "Can you control it?" he asked. Arya closed her eyes for a moment. The oppressive emotional atmosphere in the room immediately lessened. Yes, but it requires concentration. The Imperial process, it changed something fundamental in my brain structure. I can sense thoughts and emotions across vast distances now, and I can project them just as far. Mama feels scared people all over the big ship, Lyra said in her broken galactic common. She trying to make them feel better. Marcus understood. Arya wasn't just broadcasting her own emotions randomly. She was sensing the fear and uncertainty of his crew and trying to calm them. Even after everything she had been through, her first instinct was to help others. Arya, I need to ask you something important, Marcus said. Would you be willing to help us fight the Empire? Your abilities could make a significant difference in this war. Arya was quiet for a long moment, holding her daughter close. When she finally spoke, her voice was sad but determined. General, my people have never fought anyone. Violence goes against everything we believe in. But what the Empire has done, what they are becoming, it threatens everyone in the galaxy. If I do not help stop them, there will be no safe place for Lyra to grow up. She looked down at her daughter, then back at Marcus. I will help you, but you must promise me something. What? Promise me that when this is over, when the Empire can no longer hurt innocent people, you will help my people find a new home. Somewhere far from war where children like Lyra can be children. Marcus nodded. I promise. Arya smiled, and this time Marcus felt the emotion as well as saw it. Hope, warm and bright, filling the medical bay like sunlight. Then let us begin, she said. I have much to tell you about the Empire's plans, and we have little time. The enhanced commanders are planning something terrible, and they will not wait long to begin. As Marcus listened to Arya describe the horrors she had witnessed, he realized that rescuing one Zilani mother had led him into something much larger than he had imagined. The war was about to change, and he was going to need every advantage he could get, even if that advantage came from the gentle psychic abilities of a species that had never wanted to fight anyone. The Imperial world of Vega 7 burned beneath a blood-red sky. Marcus stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching orbital bombardment turn military installations into craters of melted metal. This was the fourth Imperial world he had hit in 2 weeks, and each attack had been more devastating than the last. Sir, we're getting surrender broadcast from the planetary government, Captain Rodriguez reported from her station. Ignore them, Marcus said without turning around. Continue bombardment until all military targets are eliminated. Rodriguez hesitated. Sir, they're offering complete surrender. Civilian authorities are asking for mercy. Marcus finally looked at her. His expression had changed over the past 2 weeks. The cold professionalism was still there, but now it carried something darker. Something that made even his veteran officers uncomfortable. Captain, what did we find in the underground facility on Vega 7? Rodriguez consulted her report. A processing center for Zilani neural tissue, sir. Approximately 200 victims, all deceased. The facility was preparing shipments to enhance 12 more Imperial commanders. And what did we find on Rigel 4? Another processing center, sir. 300 Zilani. And on Centauri 9? Rodriguez's voice got quieter. 500 Zilani, sir. Plus evidence that they were experimenting on other peaceful species as well. Marcus nodded. So when the planetary government of Vega 7 asks for mercy, remember that they showed none to innocent people who couldn't fight back. Continue bombardment. Across the bridge, his officers exchanged worried glances. The Iron Wolf had always been ruthless, but this was different. This was systematic destruction on a scale that went beyond military necessity. Sir, Lieutenant Chen spoke up from the communication station. We're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Admiral Morrison wants to speak with you. Marcus almost smiled. He had been expecting this call for days. Put him through. The main view screen flickered, replacing the image of burning Vega 7 with the stern face of Admiral Morrison, commander of all human military forces in this sector. Morrison looked tired and angry. General Steele, what the hell do you think you're doing out there? Following standing orders to disrupt Imperial military operations, sir. By glassing entire worlds? By ignoring surrender offers and targeting civilian infrastructure? Morrison leaned forward in his chair. I'm getting reports that you've killed over 50,000 Imperial personnel in 2 weeks, most of them after they tried to surrender. Marcus felt Arya's presence touch his mind gently. She was in her quarters with Lyra, but her enhanced abilities let her monitor his emotional state from anywhere on the ship. He could feel her concern, her worry that he was losing himself to anger and hatred. Sir, with respect, those 50,000 Imperial personnel were complicit in genocide, Marcus said. They were processing peaceful aliens for biological harvesting. They were turning living beings into raw materials for military enhancement. I understand your anger, General, but what you're doing isn't justice, it's revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. Morrison was quiet for a moment, studying Marcus's face through the video link. General, I'm ordering you to return to Earth immediately. You're being relieved of command pending a full investigation. Marcus had expected this too. I respectfully decline, sir. That's not how military orders work, General. You don't get to decline. Then court-martial me when this is over. Marcus gestured toward the view screen showing Vega 7. Right now, there are enhanced Imperial commanders spreading throughout their fleet, each one more dangerous than the last. Every day we waste on military protocol is another day they get stronger. And every world you destroy is another species that will fear humanity for generations. Is that the legacy you want to leave? Before Marcus could answer, Arya's voice came through the ship's communication system. She rarely spoke publicly, but when she did, her psychic abilities carried her words to every person aboard. Admiral Morrison, this is Arya of the Zilani. May I speak? Morrison looked confused. Who is this? She's the source of our intelligence on the Imperial Enhancement Program, Marcus explained. Her people were the primary victims. Morrison nodded slowly. Go ahead. Admiral, I have felt the minds of the enhanced Imperial commanders. They are no longer human or alien or anything that can be reasoned with. They are hunger given form, desire without limit. If they are not stopped now, they will consume everything in their path. And you think General Steele's methods are the right way to stop them? Arya was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried deep sadness. My people believe that all life is sacred, that violence is never the answer. But I have seen what these enhanced beings are capable of. They will not stop at conquest. They will not be satisfied with surrender. They will consume and consume until nothing remains. She paused, and Marcus could feel her internal struggle through their psychic connection. General Steele fights with methods that horrify me, she continued. But he fights for people who cannot fight for themselves. The Empire created monsters, and sometimes monsters can only be stopped by other monsters. Morrison looked between Marcus and the communication panel.
General, even if I accept your reasoning, your methods are creating diplomatic problems throughout the sector.
3 neutral species have filed formal complaints about human aggression. Sir, Rodriguez interrupted, we're getting urgent communications from the Corvani Republic. They're requesting immediate military assistance. Marcus felt his blood run cold. The Corvani were another peaceful species, similar to the Zilani but with natural technical abilities that made them excellent engineers. If the Empire was targeting them too, put it through, he ordered. The view screen split, showing Admiral Morrison on one side and a Corvani official on the other. The alien's normally calm demeanor was replaced by obvious panic. Human fleet, we need help. Imperial forces have invaded our home system. They are taking our people, but not for labor. They have machines, terrible machines that... The transmission cut to static. Then it resumed, but now showed an Imperial officer with glowing eyes and an inhuman smile. General Steele, the enhanced commander said, his voice carrying multiple harmonics. We have been wanting to meet you. The Corvani technical abilities will complement our Zilani psychic enhancements nicely. Perhaps you would like to watch as we process them? The transmission ended. The bridge was silent except for the hum of ship systems. Admiral Morrison spoke first. How many Corvani are there? Approximately 2 million on their homeworld, Chen reported, plus another million spread across their colonies. Morrison closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his expression had hardened. General Steele, I'm rescinding your recall order. You have full authorization to use whatever methods you deem necessary to stop the Imperial Enhancement Program. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. If you fail, humanity will be blamed for every atrocity the Empire commits with those enhanced commanders. And if you succeed using the methods you've been using, we may not be much better than they are. The transmission ended, leaving Marcus alone with his thoughts and the weight of command. He could feel Arya's presence in his mind, offering comfort and strength. But he could also feel something else, her fear that he was becoming the very thing he was fighting against. Set course for the Corvani system, he ordered. Maximum speed. As his flagship turned toward its next battle, Marcus wondered if Admiral Morrison was right. Was he becoming a monster to fight monsters? And if he was, would it matter as long as he won? He looked out at the stars and made a silent promise to Lyra, sleeping safely in her quarters. Whatever he became, whatever it cost him, he would make sure she had a galaxy where innocent children could grow up in peace, even if he had to burn half the Empire to make it happen. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the memorial garden on New Zalara, watching Lyra place flowers at the base of a crystal monument. The young girl had grown during their time together, becoming more confident and learning better Galactic Common. But she still called him Uncle Marcus, and she still trusted him completely. The garden was beautiful, filled with plants from a dozen different worlds. Each species represented another group of people the Empire had tried to harvest for their abilities. The Corvani had designed the monument itself, their technical skills creating something that seemed to sing with crystalline harmonics when the wind blew through it. "The flowers are from Mama's old garden," Lyra said, stepping back from the monument. "She says they will grow better here because the soil remembers kindness." Marcus nodded. Arya's enhanced abilities had grown stronger over the months, allowing her to sense emotional imprints in places and objects. New Zalara, built specifically as a refuge for rescued civilians, had become a world that practically glowed with hope and healing. "Uncle Marcus," Lyra said, tugging on his uniform sleeve. "Are you sad?" Marcus looked down at her. The child's natural empathy, enhanced by growing up around her mother's psychic abilities, made her surprisingly perceptive for someone her age. "A little," he admitted. "I'm thinking about the people we couldn't save." Lyra nodded solemnly. "Mama says you saved more people than anyone thought possible. She says the galaxy is safer because you were brave enough to fight the bad men. The bad men were gone now. The enhanced Imperial commanders had been hunted down one by one, their artificial psychic abilities making them easy for Arya to locate across vast distances. The final battle had been at the Imperial capital itself, where Marcus had used orbital bombardment to destroy the enhancement facilities and the research that had created them. The cost had been enormous. 12 Imperial worlds reduced to ash, over 1 million military casualties. The Empire itself had fragmented, with individual sectors declaring independence rather than face the possibility of human retaliation. "General Steele?" Marcus turned to see Captain Rodriguez approaching across the garden. She wore civilian clothes now, having retired from military service to help run the refugee settlements. Many of his former officers had made similar choices. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "A Corvani child." "She says it's important." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. A Corvani child seeking him out meant only one thing. Somewhere in the galaxy, people were in trouble again. They walked back to the settlement's main building, where Marcus found a young Corvani girl waiting in his office. She was older than Lyra had been when she first found him, maybe 10 or 11, but she had the same desperate expression. "General Steele," the child said, standing up when he entered. "My name is Kira. My people need your help." "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, gesturing for her to sit back down. "The Drakmari Consortium has taken control of our outer colonies. They're not killing anyone, but they're forcing our people to build weapons for them. Terrible weapons that could destroy entire star systems." Marcus had heard of the Drakmari Consortium. They were a collection of criminal organizations that had grown powerful in the chaos following the Empire's collapse. Unlike the Empire, they weren't interested in conquest for its own sake. They just wanted profit, and they didn't care who got hurt in the process. "Why haven't the local authorities done anything?" Marcus asked. Kira's expression grew bitter. "The local authorities are being paid by the consortium, and the New Republic government says they don't have the resources to help every species with every problem." Marcus understood. In the aftermath of the war, dozens of new governments had formed from the fragments of the Empire. Most of them were more interested in establishing their own power than helping their neighbors. "How did you find me?" he asked. "Everyone knows where General Steele lives now," Kira said. "My uncle was one of the Corvani you saved from the Imperial Enhancement Program. He told me that if we ever needed help, we should come to New Zalara." Before Marcus could respond, Lyra peeked around the doorframe. She had been listening, of course. The child had an unfortunate habit of eavesdropping on important conversations. "Uncle Marcus," she said, "are you going to help her?" Marcus looked at Lyra, then at Kira, then out the window at the peaceful settlement beyond. He had hoped that after defeating the Empire he could finally rest. He had built this refuge, helped establish new homes for the survivors, and tried to find some measure of peace. But peace, he was learning, was not a destination. It was something that had to be actively protected again and again from those who would destroy it for their own gain. "Kira," he said finally, "I need to ask you the same question I asked Lyra's mother. If I help your people, will you help me protect others who can't protect themselves?" The young Corvani looked confused. "I don't understand. The Corvani are brilliant engineers. Your people could build defenses, weapons, ships. If I help free your colonies from the consortium, will you help me build something that can protect other peaceful species from future threats?" Kira nodded without hesitation. "Yes, absolutely. My people believe that knowledge should be used to help others." Marcus made his decision. He activated his communication console and opened a channel to his former officers, scattered across known space. "This is General Marcus Steele," he said into the microphone. "I know most of you thought you were done with military service. I thought I was too, but it seems the galaxy still needs us." One by one, his former commanders began responding. Rodriguez from New Zalara, Thompson from the Rigel colony, Chen from Earth itself. They were scattered across dozens of worlds, but the old communication network still functioned. "Sir," Thompson's voice came through the speaker, "are we talking about a new military operation? We're talking about something bigger than that, Major. We're talking about building a permanent organization, something that can respond quickly when peaceful species are threatened, something that doesn't depend on government approval or political considerations." "A private military force?" Rodriguez asked. "A protection force," Marcus corrected. "We'll call it the Guardian Corps. Our mission will be simple: protect those who cannot protect themselves." Over the next hour, his former officers signed on one by one. Not all of them, some were truly done with warfare, but enough to form the core of something new. When the communication session ended, Marcus found Lyra and Kira sitting together in the garden, sharing a meal and trying to communicate in a mixture of languages. Arya approached from the direction of her workshop, where she had been using her abilities to help trauma victims heal from their experiences. "Are you sure about this?" Arya asked, settling down beside him on a garden bench. "You've already given so much to keep the peace." Marcus watched the two children laughing together despite their language barrier. Lyra was teaching Kira how to braid flowers into chains, while Kira was showing Lyra how to make small mechanical toys from spare parts. "I thought winning the war would be enough," he said. "I thought if I defeated the Empire, if I stopped their enhancement program, that would create lasting peace. And now I realize that peace isn't something you win once and keep forever. It's something you have to protect every day, from every new threat that emerges." Arya nodded, her enhanced senses picking up the complex mix of emotions in his mind. Determination, sadness, hope, and something that might have been love for the strange family he had found. "The Guardian Corps will need a base of operations," she said. "I was thinking New Zalara could serve that function." "If you're willing," Arya smiled. "General, 6 months ago you promised to help my people find a safe home. You've given us more than that. You've given us purpose." That evening, Marcus stood on the observation deck of his old flagship, now permanently docked in New Zalara's orbital station. Tomorrow he would begin the journey to Corvani space, leading a small fleet of volunteers on another mission to protect the innocent. Lyra found him there, as she often did when he was thinking. "Uncle Marcus," she said, "will you come back?" "Always," he promised, kneeling down to her level. "This is my home now. This is where my family lives." Lyra hugged him tightly. "I'm proud of you, Uncle Marcus. Mama says you're not the Iron Wolf anymore. She says you're something better." Marcus smiled, feeling something in his chest that he hadn't felt since he was very young, something that might have been happiness. "What does she say I am now?" Lyra pulled back and grinned at him. "She says you're the Guardian." As Marcus looked out at the stars, he realized that Arya was right. The Iron Wolf had been a weapon of war, forged in anger and tempered with ruthless efficiency. But the Guardian was something different, something that fought not for conquest or revenge, but for the simple right of innocent people to live in peace. His communication console chimed with an incoming message. Marcus activated it, expecting updates from his officers preparing for the Corvani mission. Instead, he found himself looking at another child, a young member of a species he didn't recognize, with large eyes filled with tears and desperation. General Steele, the child said in broken galactic common. Bad men have taken my village. Please help us. Marcus looked at the child on the screen, then at Lyra standing beside him, then out at the stars where countless species lived there.